Good morning, everyone. I'm Jesse Angelica. So today I would like to present the coding about expense tracker. Before that, I will explain the contents of this video. There are definition and purpose expense tracker. The second one is file parts. The third one is tracker method, and the last one is demo tracker. So, what's the expense tracker? It is a personal finance manager website that can track the income and expenses that generating categories of reports and summaries. So the system will ask us to make a budget and record every transaction. Next, so this is the purpose of expense tracker. It is to tracking and controlling the income, how much we saving, the expenses, how much we spending, and the investment. The second one is to minimize calculation errors in financial condition. And the last one is to maintain and help the people to have a good financial management. And there are three files for this expense tracker. The first one is index.html for making the web page. And the second one is style.css for the styling the display such as phone. And the third one is script.js for making the website look more dynamic. Okay, without further ado, let's go straight to the video. First of all, I will go to the code of HTML. In this index.html, I have some script, cdn.js, jQuery, maxcdn.bootstrap, and so on. So this all is to make the implementation easier, and I don't must to do too much on the CSS part. Next. So inside here, the first thing is I use the division with the class name of row, and the inside of row I use another div using bootstrap, column for left container. It is setting for this one. So this layout in the left side with the column 4, I think it is match, not too long and not too short. Meanwhile, if I setting 5, the width will too longer. Next, in the first div, the class is header with white color for this text balance, and the second div, this ID for show this one, the month with the class subtext and white color. Then the third div, I use budget container with P2 and MT4. The P means the padding spaces and the MT means the margin top spaces of this box. And the last code for text inside the box, I use the span with this ID and the class and the rupiah with 0 in main display. Next. And then I use another div that has a class chart container and the canvas with the ID expense chart, this code for this one. Now I also using the bootstrap for this display. So the column 8 in the right side, this code is for this display, and the color text is dark gray. Another division has drop down open, so when I click this button, then it will open. Next, I make the button. I add the data toggle and set that to the drop down. So if the menu is clicked, the text will be displayed downwards. And I use the area has pop up because I want it to have font. So it is true, and the area expanded is false. And in the button text, I write expense type. Next. This is the contents of the previous explanation. I put the another div with the class drop-down menu. I use the anchor tag, this A, consists of the class that will be drop-down item and the ID type income. like this. Inside this tag, I put the income. For the second and third menu, which is expense and investment, are same like the income. So I just copy and rename it. So what's the result? When we click this button, it will drop down these three items. Okay, that's all the three different options inside the button. Next, this is the code for this display. I use the Bootstrap. The margin top is 4. For the distance with the button above in this. Tracking text capitalized to capitalize the first letter of each word. And subtext button border for this linear line. The text is tracking savings, and I put this emoji just for fun to make more interesting. Next, now this is the code for this display. So the row is using the Bootstrap with the margin top 4. For the distance with line above. And another division has the class with column 7 to fill and match to all of the page. I also create input tag, and I use to form control because I use the Bootstrap. For the description, the type is text, and I use the placeholder to provide help text to user, and this value is same like the description. So I just copy and rename it, become value, and the type is changed to number because it is price. Next, this is for the button. So the type is button, and the success button means these check marks. The last one is I put the source from app.js to connect it. And don't forget to closing tag all of the div also everyone. And that's all for the HTML file. Next is the CSS file for styling the display. And I just explain fast. First, I use the border box for the box sizing. The content use the string. And the display will show the table form. In body, I use the black for font color. Arial for the font family, 16 pixel for font size, the relative position, so I can adjust the position, 100 viewport height, and the last 100 for the font weight to give the thickness effect. That's all about the main menu. Next, now left container for this display. I use 100 viewport height for the height, and I use the linear gradient to combine the different colors together using the dark green and electric green in the background image. So I think the gradation makes the display not flat. And the right container just have 100% width and 100 viewport height. Next, for header, the font size is to setting the size of the text, and the font weight is to set the thickness effect. And the subtext is to setting the tracking savings text. And the month container is to setting the padding of this text. So the padding top is 23%, and the left and right has 7% padding. Next, the calculation container is to setting the padding or the distance this display. So the padding top is 7% and padding left and right has 5%. And this one just for the color. And the budget container using the inline block to set the width and height of this box with the white color. For the border radius, I set 8 pixels, so the angle is a little bit obtuse with a little black shadow. Next, the month amount is for the text inside the box. The bottom border is the linear line using the blue color. The expense row is for this display. The distance between the expense and its above is 10 pixels. The expense date and the expense text is to setting blue for the font color. The expense list is to setting his display so I can scroll up and down. The font size 15 means the font size of this text. Next, this tree code is to setting the font color for the income using the green color, the expenses using the red color, and the last one for the investment using the yellow color. The expense chart is to setting the margin or the distance right here. So this has a padding. And the button submit expense is to setting the radius border. So the 50% makes the button become circle. That's all for the CSS. Now we go to the JavaScript. In expense controller, I use the let to create local variables, so I don't have to deal with function, and all of them starts from 0. And we set the return. This means that if the user input the income type, then the income will increase the value. Meanwhile, if the user input the expense or investment type, then they will decrease the value. Next, this code is to get the income data. When I click that, it will return to the income. This is also applies to the expense, investment, total data. Now I make a let HTML string. There are description, value, submit, list, current month for the expense. There are also 3 types: income, investment, and expense, tracking text, the chart, and the budget. Next, I use this code to showing the current month. Therefore, there are the month and year of today. I set now equal new date, so it will update every day. The month and the year also use the variable now.getMonth and getFullYear. For the month, I set from January to December, and this is to combine them into one unit. Next, this money code is for the emoji income. I use the document.query selector to return the first element within the document that match the specified selector. I set them when there is warning, danger, and success. Next, I also set the bill emoji for the expense and the house for the investment. So this is to combine them into one unit. There is tracking with constant text plus the type depends what I choose in the option, and the emoji depends on the type. Next, this is for the description, value, and the date. In the right side web, I use the if and else if because if I choose the income, and it will run in this code, the first line. But if I choose the other, it will run in this code between the second line and third line. And this is for adding the new element, and this is for clear the input fields after adding the element. Next, this code is to update the overall total value on the left side web. If the total value is larger than 0, it will add the expense cost. Meanwhile, if the total value is more than 0, it will add the expense saving. I use this code for the display chart diagram. All the chart starts from 0. I use the context. And the type is donut because it has a round shape like donut. So when the cursor touches the chart, there are provided three labels: income, expense, and investment. So the RGBA for setting the color, it will result the green color, and it will result the red color, and the last one is it will result the yellow color. And the border width is 0.7 for the line that separates every type, and I use white for the font color. Next, it's time to demo. Let me try the demo. So this website has the title, the balance, the month and the year, the total, the expense type option, and the tracking savings that contains of the description, the value, and the specific date. So let's get started. First, we click this button and choose the type that have drop down right here, and the color check mark will follow the type. When we click income, the color is green. When we click expense, the color is red, and the last one, investment, the color will yellow. Now I will choose one, for example, income, and I will put saving. And the value is 100,000. And when I click this button, the result will show like this. And when I click expenses, and the description, for example, is food and beverage, if the value is 20,000. When I click this button, the result like this. And the last one is investment, for example, DCA stocks. And the value is 50,000. And the result will show like this. When I have many bills, I can scroll up and down. Okay, you can see that this is the total that we have now, and this is the chart. Diagram will follow the instruction from here. For the green color, it means the savings. The red color, it means expenses. And the last one, the yellow color, it means investment. That's all for the explanation about expense tracker from me. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.